Hey, it's Matt, and welcome to the top 5 battles of the VDL Season 3, Week 4. I'm going to be taking over this series for the rest of the season. I apologize for the late upload today. I'm going on a trip next week, so I am kind of loading a bunch of my videos right now, which is pushing off the release date. Upload date of a couple things right now. Expect these videos to consistently come up on Saturdays, but Sundays at the latest. And yeah, I really hope you enjoyed. There's some super cool battles this week, and let me know what you think. At battle number 5 this week, we have Carp Cranium and the South Wales Silly Billies taking on Shadow Knight and the South Dakota Dragapults. This week we see Carp make the top 5 battles for the second week in a row, taking on Shadow Knight in the Shaman division. And this was a really interesting battle to watch up until around turn 17. Shadow Knight bringing us a Victory Dance Lilligant, also holding a wide lens, which was relatively interesting because it was in the sun, and we know that Lilligant was chlorophyll and not hustle, which is typically when you bring wide lens. But Carp Cranium just made some super smart defensive switches into things like Incineroar and Alamamola, making it really hard for Shadow Knight to make any progress. And with no real wish passing on their side or any healing mons in general, the damage being racked up was going to become significant very quickly. But one play absolutely changed this game. As Shadow Knight brought in Torkoal to set the sun back out, Carp set out their Minior, giving it a free opportunity to click Shell Smash. The sweep was not inevitable, however, because even though Minior was able to take out the Feraligatr, Shadow Knight's pursuing Lilligant was going to be faster in the sun. It clicked Triple Axle, hoping to either KO or weaken it and allow something else to finish off Minior, but Triple Axle missed. The turn 3 Clefable knockoff, knocking off that wide lens we spoke about earlier, very likely was a play that lost Shadow Knight this game, as Minior had very little trouble finishing off Shadow Knight's team, only being hit twice and still surviving at 28% health, giving Carp a 6-0 victory. It's at number 5 this week. While it's always cool to see a sweep, often it isn't a great battle per se when it's a 6-0, but they absolutely deserve a spot on this list. At battle number 4 this week, we see Kyle and the Pounding Pelipperus take on 2 Bloober and the Moss Deep City Mudkips. We see both players coming out with some super sweet team sheets this week. Kyle's team looking really strong offensively with an Iron Moth and an Iron Bundle that are both able to take advantage of the electric terrain, and Tube with a much more defensive team, but one that's not lacking offensively at all. Out the gate, we see both teams' intentions. Kyle's looking to set up terrain early for an Iron Moth or an Iron Bundle to come in offensively, and Tube starts to set up a Dragon Dance with Tyranitar. A really unfortunate Rock Blast miss from Tyranitar, put specifically on the set so they would not miss Stone Edge, allows Kyle's Corviknight to click a really dangerous Body Press, leaving Tyranitar at just 10%. We learned some pretty crucial sets early on, like Kyle's Pincurchin having the Terrain Extender item, and Garchomp being a very defensive Roughtskin Rocky Helmet Dragon Tail set, to force out the +3 defense Zamazenta Crown. A massive Thunderbolt comes out from Kyle's Pincurchin onto Tube's Fortress, not only doing over half damage, but paralyzing it in the process, crippling Tube's only hazard removal. A sack here and there leaves both sides 5-5, with both sides also very weakened, and importantly leaving Kyle Scarfless on their Gardevoir due to Swampert's knockoff. We see again both sides letting more mons fall, as Kyle's Iron Moth goes down to a big crit Volt Switch from Tube's pursuing Electrode, and seeing from the Thunderbolt damage a turn before, it would not have gone down if it wasn't for the crit, and Tube's Fortress also fell to an Iron Bundle Hydro Pump just the turn after. However, Tube played incredibly smart the remainder of the game, knowing that their pursuing Electrode was faster than Iron Bundle outside of terrain, but not in terrain. They decided to keep its Terra Ice in the back, until Iron Bundle was able to come back out with the speed boost, Kyle expecting to be able to take down Electrode with an Ice Beam, but Tube's Terra Ice typing allowed it to live comfortably, not only taking out the Iron Bundle, but all 4 of Kyle's remaining Pokemon, while only having to sack Swampert on their end, giving them a 3-0 win and a really cool Hisuian Electrode with 5 KOs. Battle number 3 this week, we see Tam and the Dallas Bolts taking on that one guy in the Michigan Manectrics. Going into this battle, both teams were 1 and 2, Tam coming off of a win and Tog coming off of a loss, but what helped this battle get onto the list was some of the super cool sets we saw. We start off by seeing some super interesting team sheets, with Tam bringing a very heavy rain team with things like Scissor, Hatterene, and Barraskewda, as well as 3 other water types, and Tog bringing some cool mons you don't see often, like a Zebstrika and a Hoopa and a Wo-Chien. And immediately we see some heat, with Tog's Zebstrika, typically a physical attacker, rocking Overheat for the Scissor lead, but Tam either predicting that or a Volt Switch into their Volt Absorb, nullified that by switching in Lantern. And just a few turns later, we see some heat from Tam, with Knockoff on the Ludicolo, taking the Leftovers recovery away from Tom's Wo-Chien. And actually a reverse Knockoff takes off Scissor's Choice Band while it defogs away the rocks on its side. A few passive turns go by and we see Tam's Pelipper sitting in front of Tog's Iron Treads, threatening the Pelipper with Volt Switch and knowing that it's faster. But we actually see Pelipper move first and Oko the Iron Treads with a Surf in the Rain, telling us that it's presumably Scarfed and taking down a very good Mon on Tog's side. And on the very next turn, we see a really interesting weather war start to happen, with Tog bringing out Sunny Day Roaring Moon, not only removing the rain, but boosting its own attack due to photosynthesis. But honestly, that was all null and void hilariously, as Pelipper comes back in, setting the rain, and being immune to Roaring Moon's Earthquake. And we see this pattern of Sunny Day and then switching into Pelipper and Lantern continue for a few turns, ending with the Dragon Danced Roaring Moon in the Sun being able to Oko Lantern with a critical hit knockoff. I don't think the crit mattered because of how much attack Roaring Moon had, but we don't really know. A few turns pass and Pelipper comes in to set the rain again, with just a few turns earlier, Tam's Scissor being able to break the Terra Shell on Tog's Terapagos. Seeing Tam sack their Pelipper at this point to Hoopa, and Barraskewda coming in, it looks like a sweep could be in the cards. But just then, as Barraskewda goes Terra Water, we see Endure from Tog's Hoopa, activating its Custat Berry, boosting its speed. This looks like it could be a big threat to Barraskewda, but we got baited again, as Tam's Barraskewda was packing Aqua Jet. And honestly, from there on out, Tam was able to just take the game, with a few well-timed flip turns and liquidations, plus the Hatterene taking out the Wo-Chien and breaking the Terapagos, giving them their second win in a row, and Barraskewda a ton of kills this week. It was just cool to see some interesting sets that worked out, some interesting sets that didn't work out, and overall, Tam playing really well and taking the game. At battle number 2 this week, we see Will and the Manchester Morpicos taking on Tom and the Central Coast Clawitzers. This was a super fun game in the Mew division this week, and immediately we saw some super cool predictions, like a Stone Edge from Will going into the incoming Mandibuzz from Tom, and just a few turns later, a Sleep Powder from Tom's Vileplume, predicting a switch, knowing that it wouldn't have affected Will's Shaman, but unfortunately it missed the incoming Empoleon. Tom was then able to play his Vileplume incredibly well, not only being able to get Will's Shaman to 3%, but managing a Sleep Powder on Dragapult while staying close to max HP and allowing their Mandibuzz to knock off Dragapult's heavy duty boots and bring it down to half health. It seemed to be a little threatening for Tom when Will's Feraligatr was sitting behind a substitute and got off a Dragon Dance, but Mandibuzz was rocking Whirlwind, allowing the Feraligatr to be sent out just as fast as the setup. Again, Tom's Vileplume started putting in the work, dodging a +2 special attack Leaf Storm from Lurantis, allowing it to strength that back its health and take it out with a few Sludge Bombs. And it really looked like all she wrote for Will, as Tom's Primarina took out Dragapult, leaving it 6-3 with most of Tom's Mons at full health. But incredibly, Will was not out of this game yet. Tom let the Mandibas go down to Empoleon with what looked like little to no consequence, but with that being gone, Crocodile came in on Tom's Zamazenta Crown, which was at +3 defense. With a Choice Scarf and a Dream, Will's Crook landed a critical hit Earthquake, bypassing the defense boosts from Zamazenta, not only KOing it, but the rest of Tom's remaining Pokemon because of the Moxie boost, and the lack of a resist or immunity remaining for Tom. While it looked like Tom had the win locked in, one critical hit changed the course of the entire game for Will, bumping them up to playoff contention. And taking the top spot this week, we see Rampardos and the Lazzarella taking on Vortex and the Indianapolis Infernates. Going into this week's, Vortex and Rampardos were tied at 2 wins and 1 loss in the Mew division. However, with Rampardos coming off their first loss and Vortex having 2 wins on the bounce, racking up some momentum going into this match. On paper, it looks like Rampardos had a really bulky offensive team led by Landorus, and a relatively defensive team from Vortex, definitely fitting with his playstyle. Out the gate, it looked like Rampardos and their Landorus took the lead over Vortex's Colossal, and even with Colossal going Terra Water, a Landorus taunt is able to shut down spikes from stacking. The next few turns indicate that both teams are going for the long game, with hazards being set and subsequently removed, but ending with a huge play on turn 9, where even though Vortex's Salazzle took over 50% from Toxapex's Surf, it was able to get a Toxic through its Corrosion ability. The next few turns again were played very defensively, with Rampardos struggling to get any momentum, having their Landorus consistently chip down, going all the way down to 35%, and their Iron Boulder at just above 50% HP, all from Vortex's Colossal. And at this point it's turn 20 when we see the first KO, with the presumed fast Annihilate being able to take out the Landorus with Rage Fist, however taking 60% health in the process. For the next 10 turns, Vortex is again able to keep up the pressure, using their Dock Spun tremendously, healing it and its teammates up with Wish and Protect, but not without its team taking damage, as its Annihilate is left at 16% from Rampardos' Terra Fairy Chestnut. Rampardos is able to threaten Vortex more and more throughout the game, utilizing their Rocky Helmet Toxapex to discourage Rapid Spin Colossal and using their Chestnut to consistently set spikes. And turn 41 comes around and nothing has really happened. Both coaches admit to being tired. While it seems like a boring game, both coaches are just playing really well and really smart. It's super defensive, just making good switches and good predictions, making sure that any momentum is kept or not lost to a great deal. We finally see the second knockout in turn 47, with Vortex's Dock Bun Roar inevitably being its own downfall, bringing in Rampardos' Iron Valiant and going down to a really powerful Moonblast. A few big turns for Vortex sees Rampardos' Iron Boulder getting burned due to the Flame Body on Colossal, allowing a free Rapid Spin from Colossal to clear the 2 layers of spikes on Vortex's side, which was huge for the rest of the game as there was no more Wish support for Vortex. Rampardos eventually elects to sack their Iron Boulder by switching it back in before removing the spikes, and Vortex lets Rampardos' Priorgonal take out the Terra Water Colossal with Freeze Dry. Again, Rampardos' Toxapex puts in work, being able to switch in and take out Annihilate from Vortex due to its Rocky Helmet, finally putting the game in a position where it looks like Rampardos is in the driver's seat. To me, in what seems like a strange play, Rampardos decides to let their Toxapex go down to an Earthquake from Vortex's Hisuian Goodra, to then allow their own Chestnut to threaten out Goodra. Realizing this, Vortex decides to sack his own Iron Bundle to allow a much easier switch in for Salazzle, seeing that it is increasingly clear that there is nothing that feels comfortable taking Sludge Wave from Vortex's Salazzle now that Toxapex is gone. Both players still have an ability to win this game at this point, with Rampardos 1 mon ahead. However, the only thing keeping him from losing to the Salazzle is their Priorgonal, which can never beat Hisuian Goodra one-on-one without freezes. And at this point in the game, Rampardos realizes that Goodra's Heavy Slam will hurt everything that is left on their side, so they decide to go for Freeze Luck, which they do not get, with Goodra being able to take down the Cryogonal, and in fact surviving an Aura Sphere from Iron Valiant as well because of its Assault Vest, allowing it to take that out too. While Rampardos' Chestnut is able to take out the Gudra, the 25% health Salazzle is always faster and able to take out the Chestnut with a Sludge Wave, giving Vortex a very tense but very important 1-0 victory, pushing him to second in the league. And there you have it. That was wow, I have like a cut my lip. That was the VDL Season 3 Week 4 Top 5 battles. I really hope you guys enjoyed. Please let me know what you would change in the comments below, and I will see you next week.